So you're considering investing in a short-term rental and you're not exactly sure if you know everything there is to know? Well, stick around because on this video, we're going to be talking about the top 5 pros, but most importantly, we're going to talk about the top 5 cons and reasons why you may not purchase a short-term rental in Orlando, Florida, and we're getting to it right now. My name is June KRANICH, and on this channel we do videos every single week of what it's like to live, work, vacation, invest, all things as it's related to Orlando and Central Florida. So if that's the information that you want and need, well then do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and click the bell below so that you're notified every time we do a new video. We have people reaching out to us every single week, and my team and myself were absolutely honored. So if you're thinking about moving to Orlando or Central Florida or purchasing a short-term rental or investment property, well then send us a text, give us a call, send us an email, however you wish to connect, because we got you covered when it comes to moving to Orlando and Central Florida. So like I said, we're going to talk about the top 5 pros and the top 5 cons to purchasing a short-term rental in Orlando market. And we're going to start with the pros first. Let's talk about the nicey nice stuff. Well, coming in at number 5 is that Orlando is ever expanding. I mean, every time you think, wow, we have a lot of theme parks, they add something new. You know, they have Epic World coming in. That is, that's positioned to be here by 2024 or 2025. That's the addition to Universal Studios. Disney World is definitely, you know, one does one, then the other one does something else. Ever expanding, ever growing. We're getting more restaurants, more shopping, more all kinds of cultural activities. But I can tell you that it's ever expanding and ever growing. Now in 2019, 76 million people visited Orlando, Florida. In 2020, pandemic, the world shut down, travel bans, all that kind of stuff. Only 35.3 million people traveled to Orlando, and trust me, we really felt it. Now hear this. In 2021, in the first half of the year, 59 million people visited Orlando, Florida, which tells me in 2021, even though I cannot get the final number, it's poised to reach over 100 million people. There is opportunity galore. And there are many people that are tired of staying in hotels and would rather stay in a vacation rental property. Think about it. 2, 3, 4 families can stay in the same house and it'll wind up costing them less money. So that's why it comes in at number 5, is that Orlando is going to continue to grow and expand. Coming in at number 4 is we were made for short-term rentals. So having a short-term rental in an area like this is very easy to find. Housekeeping service, handyman service, management companies. We have furniture companies that give you furniture packages. Everything is built and designed around short-term rentals. So it's not like you're the odd man out. Here, there's plenty. And another thing is that there's many short-term rental properties, like communities, are built solely for short-term rentals. So everything is vacation, you know, frame of mind, with crazy resort-style pools and water slides and everything you can think of. So it is designed for the short-term rental in mind. So you certainly will be in good company. Coming in at number 3, legislation won't change. Davenport area, Kissimmee area, near the theme parks, all in the 4 corners, short-term rental. Now there are some communities that are solely short-term rentals. You cannot stay 30 days or less. There's no ands, ifs, or buts, even if you own the property. There's other short-term rental areas that are dual. There's some residences and there are some short-term rentals. Then there's other properties that allow no short-term rentals. That what I'm trying to say is in the Four Corners area, they're not going to change that legislation. This is big money for the city of Orlando, for the city of Osceola County, and for Polk County. Resort taxes, all the fees, all that stuff goes into the pot. So they're not going to change the legislation. Now, if you buy a short-term rental in Washington, D.C., who knows? Because you're making your neighbors mad. But in this area, it's short-term rental haven, and you know that the laws and the legislation will not change. Coming in at number 2, you have your own travel oasis. If you love Orlando, Florida, you love the theme parks, Disney, Universal, SeaWorld, Islands of Adventure, I think Holy Land went out of business. It's kind of sad. But anyway, if you love this area, why not? You'll have your own vacation property. They always have like a little locked door for the owner closet. There's like 2 separate owner closets where you can put all your stuff so that the other people can't touch it. Now your own property is paying for itself. And we look at an occupancy rate of about 80% year round. So that is that's the number 2 reason why it makes so much sense for you, especially if you love Orlando, Florida to vacation, is that you'll have your own travel home, your own travel oasis right here next to Mickey Mouse. And coming in at number 1 is the profitability of the short-term rental versus a long-term rental. Like, the difference is night and day. You have a cash cow when you have a short-term rental if you're in the right location, if you're a good Airbnb or VRBO host, if. Like, you have to do a good job at that part. But if you do, the money far outweighs a long-term rental. Now, my goal is to be diversified. I want my short-term rentals, I want my long-term rentals, because you never know what's gonna happen. Don't we know that from, the coronavirus? But all in all, the money made out of short-term rentals, successful short-term rentals, are really something to take a look at. So that's why it comes in at number 1. If you're getting any value out of this video, do me a favor and hit that like button and comment below and tell me, what are your thoughts about Airbnb? Do you think that the pros outweigh the cons, or do you think the cons outweigh the pros? So with all good things comes some not so good things. So we're gonna talk about the top 5 cons to owning a short-term rental, Airbnb, whatever you wanna call it, here in Orlando, Florida. And coming in at number 5 is local regulations and restrictions. So though we know that that's not going to change in Orlando, you never know what's going to change. If the HOA changes, if the HOA goes up, we know it's going up. There's a lot of different caveats to Airbnb. It's not just the property, it's the taxes, it's the HOA, it's the Airbnb platform, it's what are their, regulations, what do they change? So all of those things, those local regulations and restrictions can change. They're not absolutely, etched in stone forever. So that's just something to think about. So that's why it comes in at number 5 is local regulations and restrictions. Coming in at number 4 is higher cost. At the end of the day, it costs more money to own an Airbnb than it does a long-term rental. Because think about it, long-term rental, you're not carrying the electric, you're not carrying the water, you're not carrying the HOA. You do the HOA, but for the most part, those are what your tenant pays for, unless you're just the most wonderful person on earth. Most of the time it doesn't include anything, not even, cable. But with an Airbnb property, you have the HOA, and some are lower, but most of them are higher. And now they're becoming very competitive because there's more bells and whistles, and more bells and whistles mean higher HOA, also means better occupancy. I just have to say that. You have to pay for furnishings, but not only that, but the upkeep of the furnishings in case anything breaks. Like I said, water and electric, you have management fees. If you don't self-manage, you have to pay those management fees. You have resort fees. So all of that stuff you have to take into consideration. I, not being the most analytical human being you're ever gonna meet, I'm self-taught though. I have to do spreadsheets, and then I have to decide if all things are on the higher end, does it make sense for me to purchase a short-term rental in this particular area for this particular price? So you really have to take that into consideration, that there is a higher cost to doing business with short-term rentals. So coming in at number 2 is it's less stable. You know, you get a tenant in a long-term rental, they stay at your property sometimes a year, sometimes 2 years, sometimes 5 years. Sometimes you get the greatest tenants ever known to mankind, and they just stay for a long time, and then they even wind up buying the house. You know, it's like one of those dream tenants. Well, this is a little bit different. With Airbnb, it's less stable. It can fluctuate. Now, hear me out. Think about it. We went from 76.3 million people in 2019 to 35.3 million in 2020. So though Orlando, Florida is still the #1 tourist destination in the world, we got hit. There are a lot of people that got hit, and short-term rentals would be in that, you know, I would think in that pocket. So it's really something to think about, you know, and you might even consider purchasing a short-term rental in a dual community, so that if short-term isn't doing well, then you have long-term. So I'm just saying, it's these things that you really have to think about. Sounds like a great idea, but you have to think of all the what ifs. And coming in at number 1, the biggest con that I see with short-term rentals is if you're not a good Airbnb host. You have got to master that. There are people out there that take their phone to take pictures, to put it on the platform. They don't have things laid out. They don't have automated systems. They don't think ahead. They don't have, you know, policies for pets, for parties, for all that stuff. You have to be a good Airbnb host in order to be hugely successful in this arena. And part of that is, should I self-manage or should I not? It may be your calling, you may be too busy for that. But if you don't put professional style pictures up, you're not gonna get as much of an occupancy rate or as much of a daily rate for your property. You have to learn and master how to be a great Airbnb host, which is its own job in and itself. So it's really something to think about. It's not just so easy. You buy the property, put it up there, and it takes care of itself. Absolutely not. And along the lines with being a good Airbnb host is you have to have a good housekeeping and a good handyman. Not just one, but 2. Because when one can't show up, the other one does. 2 good cleaners, 2 good handymen. It is a must for an Airbnb success. So today, we were talking about the top 5 pros and the top 5 cons to owning a property, a short-term rental in Orlando, Florida. And while we're at it, you know, I want to show you some of the properties that we've already displayed on YouTube, show you one of our latest videos on an area that's dynamite. So you might want to check that out. But anyway, if this isn't really what you're looking for, it's not really your style, or you just want different information, well, you have to let us know. You have to reach out, you have to let us know exactly what it is that you're looking for, so we can get those videos out to you right away. So remember, if you're thinking about moving to Orlando, Florida, or Central Florida, and or investing in a short-term rental or a vacation property for yourself, well then send us a text, give us a call, send us an email, however you wish to connect, because we got you covered when it comes to moving to Orlando and Central Florida, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.